Okay, well, I can tell you this, that because of the artificial light of computers, and this even started with television, the girls begin their period sometimes as early as the age of 9.
Mhm.
So that means a 5 to 7 year premature development due to synthetic light.
Well, the electric light bulb and maybe even gaslight in cities enabled people to throw their body clocks off.
Right.
Plus a lot of extra leisure time. People, the ordinary people who would normally work like 9,000 hours a day, 10 days a week for their entire lives, they were able to, go out in the evening and play around.
Yeah. Yeah. So we already know synthetic light affects the body and creates premature development. And full spectrum light and the light off of a computer are two altogether different animals.
Mhm.
And they do two very different things to the brain. The analog I can give you is synthetic light has all the same effects of white sugar. It's tasty and sweet and bad for you. Whereas full spectrum light is like dark brown sugar, which has everything in it you need to digest it.
Mhm.
So, blackstrap molasses is your friend, and natural sunlight is what you're actually designed to absorb, and your skin is semi-transparent. So you're made for light to pass through. You don't have to be a child and stick a flashlight in your mouth to look at the blood vessels in your cheeks to figure it out. But we're made for light and we digest it, and it's an important part. And as a matter of fact, one of my friends here, William, is a retired osteopath, and he actually measures the light that is emitted from the acupuncture points in your body. And he uses that as a diagnosis. So actually, when you're healthy, you emit more light from your body. It can be measured. There's a photonic measurement in the skin. And he actually measures the points, and he does an assessment on how bright you are.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. So not only do we absorb light, we do emit light. It's just subtle. And that fact is, it might be how blind people can also navigate a certain way, because they may sense a kind of radiation from the body is off the visibles. The Russians, years ago, we're talking 1950s, they had a named Madame Kalagina, and they photographed her, and she had objects in a transparent plastic or glass box, and she could wave her hands and make them move. And they photographed this, and it wasn't stage magic. The conditions were all controlled, but before the objects moved, they were able to photograph a blue light coming out of her eyes like a beam.
Wow.
And so that is the only evidence that I have been able to gather about the light that comes out of the eye. And you all need to know that ancient peoples all believed that a light came out of the eye. And I think it could be they could see it. But we are taught that light enters the eye, right? So we're taught the eye as a receiver. But if you're taught that from a young age, how could you ever see a light coming out of the eye? You would be conditioned not to see such a thing because it would be considered not real. But you need to know that the human body, first off, it does emit light. Second off, there's not enough research on it. Third off, ancient peoples always believed this. And if you want to look at something very interesting, you can look at the evolution of language. For instance, the word observe, 400, 600 years ago, when the word observe was used in English, it meant that you came out of your eyes and went into an object. It was an act of stretching. And it was completely active. To observe meant to leave, practically leave your body through your eyes and enter an object. That's what the word observe meant. And 400 to 600 years later, that definition mutated, especially after the time of Descartes. So that's after the 1700s. And the word observe no longer meant to go out of yourself actively. The word observe meant light bounced off an object into your eye. And then you see the word was totally passive. Now, what I want to point out, guys, is what that means is that for some reason, a lot of other words also had their meanings changed. And all of the words, get this, all of these different words went from active to passive. So the human being over about a 500 or 600 year period became something that things happened to, and no longer something that went out and did stuff. And so the psychology went from activity to victimization. And so people, by the use of their words and by their thinking about the senses in this way, began to see themselves as having no real power, but having to accept what happened to them. How you like that? And so when you look at these prodigious effects, you were talking about pyramids at the beginning, guys. When you look at the prodigious activity of ancient peoples, you have to realize that obviously they believed they could do it.
They did it.
But had they been taught that they were somehow unable to do it, they would not have been able to do it. You are governed by what you believe. And if the switches are not switched on, you can't do it.